In a faraway land, there lived a humble fisherman named Elias. He was known throughout the village not for his fishing skills, but for his boundless kindness and generosity. Elias would often give away the best part of his catch to the less fortunate, even when he barely had enough for himself. He lived in a small cottage by the sea with his young daughter, Lila, who was the joy of his life. Her laughter filled the air like the melody of a songbird. One day, as Elias set out for his usual fishing trip, the sea was unusually calm. The sun sparkled on the water's surface, making it look as though diamonds floated on the waves. As his boat drifted farther from the shore, Elias noticed something peculiar. Floating just ahead of him was a small, ornate box, glistening in the sunlight. Memory updated. Here's a story designed to take about 30 minutes to read. Title: The Golden Compass. In a faraway land, there lived a humble fisherman named Elias. He was known throughout the village not for his fishing skills, but for his boundless kindness and generosity. Elias would often give away the best part of his catch to the less fortunate, even when he barely had enough for himself. He lived in a small cottage by the sea with his young daughter, Lila, who was the joy of his life. Her laughter filled the air like the melody of a songbird. One day, as Elias set out for his usual fishing trip, the sea was unusually calm. The sun sparkled on the water's surface, making it look as though diamonds floated on the waves. As his boat drifted farther from the shore, Elias noticed something peculiar. Floating just ahead of him was a small, ornate box, glistening in the sunlight. Curiosity got the better of him, and he reached out with his oar to bring the box aboard. It was made of polished wood, and etched into the top was a compass rose, inlaid with gold. Intrigued, Elias opened the box and found, nestled inside, a beautiful golden compass. The needle on the compass didn't point north like a regular one. Instead, it spun slowly before settling on a direction Elias had never seen. The moment Elias touched the compass, he felt a strange sensation, a gentle tug, as if the compass were urging him to follow its guidance. Being a man of intuition, Elias decided to see where this mysterious compass would lead him. He steered his boat in the direction the needle pointed, away from the familiar shores. For hours, Elias sailed into uncharted waters. The sky began to darken, and storm clouds gathered on the horizon. Just as he considered turning back, the sea suddenly grew wild. Gigantic waves tossed his boat back and forth like a leaf in the wind. Despite his fear, Elias held tight to the compass, its needle unwavering, pointing ahead into the storm. After what seemed like an eternity, the storm subsided, and Elias found himself near an island he had never seen before. It was a strange, mystical place. The air was thick with the scent of wildflowers, and the trees seemed to whisper as the wind passed through their leaves. Cautiously, Elias docked his boat and stepped ashore, clutching the compass. As he ventured deeper into the island, he came across an ancient temple, hidden among the trees. Vines wrapped around its stone pillars, and the carvings on the walls depicted images of explorers, adventurers, and travelers. At the temple's entrance, an inscription read, "Only the pure of heart may seek what lies within." Elias hesitated. He had no idea what this place was or what the inscription meant, but something deep within him urged him to continue. He entered the temple, and inside, he found a grand hall filled with treasures beyond his wildest dreams. Piles of gold, jewels, and artifacts from long-lost civilizations surrounded him. But none of it tempted Elias. He wasn't there for wealth. He was driven by something more, an inexplicable sense that there was something even greater to discover. At the far end of the hall, a massive stone door loomed. Above it, the same compass rose was carved into the stone. Elias held up his golden compass, and to his amazement, the door slowly opened, revealing a staircase leading down into the earth. With only the dim light of a torch to guide him, Elias descended the steps. The air grew cooler, and the walls were lined with strange markings. Finally, he reached a large underground chamber. In the center of the room stood a tall pedestal, and on it lay a single item, a small, unassuming glass vial filled with a shimmering liquid. As Elias approached, an elderly figure appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. The old man's eyes were wise. His face weathered with time. "You have come far," the man said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "But why have you come? Do you seek the treasures of the earth, or do you seek something greater?" Elias thought carefully before he replied. "I seek not wealth or power. I followed the compass because it felt like my heart was leading me here. I don't know what I'm meant to find, but I trust that it will help me care for my daughter and my people." The old man smiled. "You are indeed pure of heart. The compass led you here because you seek not for yourself, but for others. This vial contains the elixir of hope. With it, you can heal any wound, lift any sorrow, and bring light to the darkest of places. But remember, its power is not limitless. Use it wisely, and only when truly needed." Elias accepted the vial with reverence. "Thank you," he whispered. The old man nodded and disappeared as mysteriously as he had come. Elias returned to his boat, the golden compass still pointing the way. The journey back was peaceful, as if the sea itself had recognized his purpose. When he returned to his village, he used the elixir sparingly. A drop here for a sick child, a drop there for a grieving widow. Soon, stories of Elias's compassion spread far and wide, and the village prospered. But the true magic was not in the elixir itself, but in the hope and kindness Elias had always carried within him. The compass had merely guided him to a truth he had known all along, that the greatest treasures in life are not riches, but the love we share and the good we do for others. As time passed, Elias became a legend in his village. Though he could have used the elixir to become a powerful ruler or to amass great wealth, he chose instead to live a simple life. People traveled from distant lands to seek his help, drawn by the stories of the fisherman with the golden compass and the magical vial. But Elias only used the elixir for those in true need, never wasting a single drop. One day, as Elias was mending his fishing nets by the shore, a messenger arrived from the king's court. The king himself had fallen gravely ill, and no physician in the kingdom could cure him. The messenger begged Elias to come to the palace and bring the elixir, hoping it could save the king's life. Elias agreed, knowing this would be one of the last opportunities to use the elixir, as the vial was nearly empty. With his daughter Lila by his side, he traveled to the royal palace, where he was greeted by anxious courtiers and the queen, whose eyes were swollen from weeping. "The king is fading," she whispered. "If you can save him, our kingdom will forever be in your debt." Elias was led to the king's chamber, where the once strong ruler lay pale and motionless, barely clinging to life. He held the vial in his hand, feeling its weight. It was down to its last drop. Elias knew that once he used it, there would be no more elixir left. As he uncorked the vial, preparing to pour the final drop into the king's mouth, a thought struck him. What if the elixir wasn't meant for the king? What if this last drop was meant for someone else, someone whose need was even greater? He hesitated, torn between his desire to help and his growing sense that the answer wasn't as simple as saving the king's life. Lila, sensing her father's inner turmoil, touched his arm. "Father," she said softly, "you always say that true kindness comes from the heart, not from magic. What does your heart tell you now?" Elias looked down at his daughter, wise beyond her years, and suddenly he understood. The elixir had always been a symbol, not the source of his power to help others. His heart was his compass, just as it had been all along. He gently recorked the vial and turned to the queen. "I cannot save the king with magic," he said. "But I can offer him hope." The queen looked at him, bewildered. "Hope? But how can hope save a man on the brink of death?" Elias knelt by the king's bedside and took his frail hand. "Majesty," he said softly, "I know you are weak, but your people need you. They need your strength, your wisdom, and your guidance. You've ruled with justice and kindness, and now, more than ever, your kingdom needs you to fight." He placed the golden compass on the king's chest. "This compass has guided me to places I never thought I'd go. It's helped me find my way when all seemed lost. Now, it's yours. Let it guide you back to health. Believe in its power, and believe in your own." For a long moment, the king lay still, his eyes closed. Then, slowly, his hand closed around the compass. A faint color returned to his cheeks, and his breathing grew stronger. The queen gasped, her eyes filling with tears of gratitude. "How did you?" she whispered. Elias smiled, standing up. "The compass only shows the way. It's up to the person holding it to find their strength." Over the next few days, the king made a miraculous recovery. Word spread throughout the kingdom of the mysterious fisherman who had saved the king, not with magic, but with hope. The golden compass was placed in the royal treasury, but its legend continued to grow, inspiring people to believe in their inner strength and the power of kindness. Years later, as Elias grew older, he passed the compass down to Lila, who had blossomed into a young woman full of compassion and wisdom, just like her father. She too became a beacon of hope for the village, carrying on her father's legacy of kindness. The elixir of hope was never used again, but its message lived on, that true magic lies not in potions or treasures, but in the hearts of those who choose to help others without expecting anything in return. As for the golden compass, it continued to point the way not to riches or fame, but to the path that led to kindness, generosity, and the truest form of wealth, a life filled with love and purpose. Hope and kindness are the greatest treasures one can possess. True strength comes from within, and the most valuable gift you can offer is the belief in others' ability to overcome their challenges. Years passed, and Lila, now the keeper of the golden compass, grew into a figure as revered as her father. The villagers would often come to her for guidance, just as they had once sought Elias. Lila's wisdom shone through in every decision she made, and though she had inherited her father's kindness, she also possessed her own brand of quiet courage. One cold winter's night, as Lila sat by the fire, a knock echoed through the cottage. She opened the door to find a stranger, an old woman, hunched over with age, her clothes tattered and her eyes full of sorrow. "Please, I need help," the old woman rasped. "I've traveled far, and my strength is gone." Without hesitation, Lila welcomed her in, offering her a warm meal and a place by the fire. The woman ate slowly, her hands trembling as she spoke. "I come from a distant land," she began, "where our crops have withered and the rivers have dried. Our people suffer greatly, and I have journeyed here to seek the one who carries the golden compass. They say that whoever possesses it has the power to bring life back to the land." Lila's heart ached for the woman's plight, but she knew that the compass itself had no magic. It was a symbol, a guide, not a cure. Yet she also understood that sometimes people needed something to believe in, something that could reignite hope in their hearts. "Stay the night," Lila said kindly. "Tomorrow, we will set out together and see if the compass can guide us to a solution." The old woman nodded gratefully and fell into a deep sleep by the fire. That night, Lila lay awake, holding the golden compass in her hands. She felt the weight of the responsibility it carried, but she also knew that her father had never relied on it alone. It was her heart, not the compass, that would lead her to the right path. At dawn, Lila and the old woman set off on their journey, following the direction the compass pointed. They traveled through thick forests and across barren plains, their spirits tested by the harshness of the land. Days turned into weeks, and Lila began to wonder if they were truly heading toward a solution or if the compass was merely leading them in circles. But then, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they reached the edge of a desolate valley. In the distance, Lila could see a small village, much like her own, but it was eerily silent. The houses were crumbling, the fields bare, and not a single soul moved about. "This is my home," the old woman whispered, her voice choked with sadness. Lila's heart sank at the sight. She knew that no simple compass could restore what had been lost here. But as she gazed out at the broken land, a thought began to form in her mind. "We must speak to the people," Lila said gently. "If they have given up hope, we will help them find it again." The old woman looked at her, unsure. "But what can we offer them? We have no food, no water, no magic." "We have something far more powerful," Lila replied, holding up the compass. "We have the belief that things can change." As they entered the village, they were met by wary eyes and tired faces. The villagers had long since stopped expecting miracles, and the sight of strangers offered little comfort. But Lila stood before them, her voice steady and full of compassion. "I know you are suffering," she began, "but I bring a gift that was passed down to me by my father, a man who believed in the power of hope. This golden compass has led me here, but it is not the compass itself that will save you. It is the strength you already carry inside." The villagers exchanged skeptical glances. They had heard such words before, from well-meaning travelers who promised change but delivered nothing. Yet something in Lila's tone was different. There was no promise of miracles, only an invitation to believe in themselves once more. "You have the power to rebuild this village," Lila continued. "The land may be barren now, but it can be renewed. Together, you can dig new wells, plant new seeds, and bring life back to this place. The compass has shown me the way here, but the real journey is yours to take." At first, no one moved. The silence stretched on, thick with doubt. Then, slowly, an old man stepped forward. He was frail, his skin weathered by years of toil. But there was a spark of determination in his eyes. "I'll help," he said, his voice gruff but resolute. "We can't sit and wait any longer." One by one, others joined him, and soon the entire village was gathering tools, seeds, and anything they could salvage. Lila worked alongside them, showing them how to irrigate the fields with what little water they had and teaching them new methods of planting that required fewer resources. Days passed, and the village slowly began to change. New crops sprouted from the earth, and the wells they dug filled with fresh water. The villagers, once weary and hopeless, found strength in their unity and purpose. And though the work was hard, there was laughter and hope in the air again. As the village flourished, Lila prepared to leave. The old woman, now full of gratitude, offered her a bag of fresh produce as a gift. "You saved us," she said, tears in her eyes. Lila shook her head. "No, you saved yourselves. The compass only showed the way. It was your courage that brought life back to this place." She handed the golden compass to the old woman. "Keep this," Lila said. "It's your turn to guide others now." The old woman accepted the compass with trembling hands, understanding the responsibility it carried. Lila and the old woman embraced, and as Lila set off on her journey back home, she felt lighter, knowing that the compass had once again served its true purpose, not to provide answers, but to inspire hope and action in those who needed it most. As Lila sailed back to her village, she looked up at the sky, where the stars twinkled like beacons in the night. She realized that, like the stars, the compass had always been a reminder that even in the darkest times, there was always a way forward if you only had the courage to look for it. And so, the legend of the Golden Compass continued to grow, not as a tale of magic or miracles, but as a story of hope, perseverance, and the power of believing in something greater than yourself.